If there is one thing that Starfield is doing that I absolutely love as a science fiction and gaming nerd, it is everything to do with the ships and the ship customization that I have seen from fans currently with the release of the game. Today's video is centered around showcasing and talking about many of the different kinds of ships that we have seen so far, and in a way, it's a basic kind of Starfield community video. I think it is important to show off these ships and kind of have fun with it. There have been many ships made already, and even without the full use of mods in the game yet, I have been pretty impressed with what people have been able to do and maneuver around in order to create certain things. If you are somebody who is loving what you are seeing with regards to the ships in Starfield, give this video a like and comment down below any ideas that you've seen that I may or may not mention in this video. Firstly, before we get into the main crux of this video, showcasing off a lot of these ships, I wanted to give my idea of what I'm going to be doing with my own ship. I think the final idea that I've come up with to do is to create a TIE fighter from Star Wars. Now, we will have a Star Wars section to talk about, but one of the ships that I have not seen anybody design yet is a TIE fighter, and I don't know if I'll be the first one to do that, but I know for a fact that that's going to be the ship that I want to make. I love TIE fighters so much. I think they are one of the coolest ships in all of science fiction history. I don't know if I'll be able to replicate that amazing sound design for the noise it makes, but I just want to be able to build it regardless. But now, like I said, it is time to segue into the first section, which is showcasing off the ships that many people have built so far, and we are going to be going into Star Wars ships first. Star Wars is my favorite IP in the world, and so this section means a lot to me with what has been built so far, and it doesn't surprise me because for a lot of people out there, I think this game was really just, it was sort of inspired by Star Wars, and I feel like a lot of fans took that with it and they went into the game and said, you know what, I'm going to make a lot of stuff from that IP. The first ship that I want to point out comes from a fan by the name of The Mighty Milkman on Reddit. This is maybe one of the best ships I have seen Star Wars or not, just based on how accurate it looks, and to the original at least from that franchise. The ship being built is the Radiant 7, which is the Consular class space cruiser at the very beginning of the Phantom Menace that gets blown up by the Trade Federation when Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan go on board the ship. Seriously, this man deserves so much credit. He said it took him the entire early access just to get it done, and honestly, I can see why. This Reddit post has over 5,000 likes, and it makes all the sense in the world because this is simply one of the best designs that has come out of the game so far. And of course, that's not the only Star Wars ship that's been built with what people have been given. We've gotten some great looks at what a Razor Crest looks like, which is the ship from the Mandalorian show as seen here. We have the Y-Wing bomber, which was built by the Reddit user of Shemif. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not, but this is their design. We have a couple of different X-Wing designs, the first being from the user Hated Path, and then another one from the user of Fudgy Brown on Reddit. These are both very good designs, and again, I am very impressed. We also have someone by the name of Crunkstep77 who attempted to design the Millennium Falcon, and again, I'm just very impressed by how he was able to maneuver around creating this with the parts given to him, especially considering this is a very uniquely designed ship based on its circular look, and it's not the only Millennium Falcon I've seen be built by certain people, but this is one that I did want to point out. I've also seen several people try to attempt to create a Star Destroyer as well, and that one I have to say is very interesting considering how big those ships are in the universe, so you have to consider the fact that you would have to have decreased the size of the ship and make it a lot more smaller. I will say though, once mods fully start to become apparent in the game, I cannot wait to see what an actual Star Destroyer looks like when not in an actual Star Wars game. So clearly, as you can tell, there have been a lot of Star Wars inspirations for ships, and that kind of sums up the gist of where this category is for shipbuilding. I'm still firmly going to try and create a TIE fighter, so we'll see if anybody else can design it along with me. I now want to move over to a bunch of other different areas of science fiction that a lot of people have been able to create ships out of. One of my favorite designs that I have seen someone do that kind of harkens back to a childhood memory for me is from the game StarCraft. I did end up finding a post where someone who I apologize for not finding the name of was able to create a battlecruiser from StarCraft. The reason this harkens back home for me is because I grew up watching my older brother play StarCraft, at least the original StarCraft games, and I always remembered seeing the ship be used, and I'm not a StarCraft player or watcher, but this was just something that harkened back to my childhood growing up, and I think this design looks pretty good, and shout out to whoever it was that did end up designing this ship. Another science fiction franchise that has been showcased heavily in terms of ship design is Halo. I have been seeing so many people showcase many different types of designs for the Pelican ship that is arguably the most recognizable ship in all of Halo lore. A user by the name of Cryptic a couple of days ago posted about him building one that looks very similar to the ship. I think I've also seen a few other different Pelican designs as well floating around, but for the most part, this is the ship that people have been inspired by the most to create from that game specifically. Moving over to another franchise in Mass Effect, we have seen that someone has been able to somewhat replicate the ship called the Normandy SR2. Now, I am somebody who's never played a Mass Effect game before, but just putting both pictures side by side, I think the user by the name of NeoK1882 did a pretty decent job replicating it, especially with what he was given to use. The ship itself from the game just looks very cool, and honestly, just even being close enough, I think it's still pretty good. I think even if you don't part for part and layer by layer get down what the ship looks like, I still find it is awesome that fans can at least try to get the design down as best as possible. For me, when I go on to try and build my TIE Fighter ship, I know for a fact that it's going to be a little difficult, and it might not look exactly like how I want it to, but the goal in mind is to at least try, and I love how so many people have gone through with that notion in mind. In general though, those are just some of my favorite categories of ships that I've seen taken from many other different science fiction properties. Just by doing a lot of research, I have seen people try to create stuff from franchises like Stargate and even something as cool as Dead Space, where I think at one point I saw that somebody was no joke trying to recreate the USG Ishimura Planet Cracker ship from the original Dead Space game. That is how hard and in-depth people are trying to go with creating the ships, and I just love that. For context, there is a Reddit page called Starfield Ships that you can go to find people posting about all the different creations, and even though I'm not personally the biggest fan of Reddit, because I think for the most part it can be a really toxic place sometimes, this is a great page where fans are coming together to talk about all the different designs that they've come up with. It doesn't matter if it has to do with them being inspired by other science fiction franchises creating ships, or even somebody just, trying to create something new and original that is completely separate from anything that they've seen before. At the end of the day, the goal of this video was kind of to come together as a community for this game and just talk about and nerd out about all these different things. Of course, for the most part, a lot of these ships are from people who were able to get early access to the game. We are only a day or so into the worldwide release of the game, so I imagine there's a good chance we'll see a lot more people other than the early access ones be creating a lot of other different ships. It is still kind of crazy that it's been pretty much almost a week now that the game has been out, again, from the standpoint of who got it early and who didn't. I am very much looking forward to seeing more people create some cool stuff, and I'm not sure when I'll make another video, again, talking about ships specifically, but just know that making videos like this is where the passion comes from, and I just can't wait to see what everybody else does. So with that in mind, I'm going to end it off there, and the last thing that I want to ask you all is to comment down below all of what you have seen so far with regards to shipbuilding and Starfield, whether it's from you or from somebody else that you've seen online. Please let me know your thoughts down below, and like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and have been loving Starfield so far, or are just getting into it like I have been. My playthrough has already started, and so I'm looking forward to the future. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for another video. This is Orion, signing out.